The great ship floated in the silent darkness, a brilliant white island against the black of space. On its side, painted larger than a city block, was the ancient and simple symbol, a red cross. This was the SS Florence Nightingale, the flagship of Earth's interstellar medical corps. It did not carry weapons. It carried medicine, surgery bays, trauma counselors, and hope. Inside, the lights were always bright. Chief Medical Officer Lee Hanna moved through the central ward with a calm that seemed to settle the very air around her. She checked the vital signs of a wounded Rill soldier, its chitinous arm carefully set in a medical cast. A few beds down, a Zenthian officer, its gray skin slick with medicinal gel, slept under sedation. Both sides of the conflict, both receiving the same careful, impartial care. This was the principle. This was the law. Park Jun, the ship's chief security officer, found her by the observation window. His face was set in a hard line, different from Hana's soft focus. He looked not at the patients, but at the view. Below them, the planet Kala 7 burned with small, silent flashes of green and orange. 2 moons hung in the sky. One was a dead rock. The other, Kala 7's primary moon, was the reason they were here. It was where the war between the Zenthian hegemony and the Rill collective was fiercest. They're pushing again, June said, his voice low. The Zenthian cruiser, the Executor, is moving into a new offensive position. Their energy signatures are spiking. It feels aggressive. Hana followed his gaze to the sleek, angular shape of the Zenthian warship in the distance. Our position is neutral, June. Our signal is clear. The Red Cross has stood for mercy for centuries. They know this. The Rill know this. The Rill respect it, June countered. The Zenthians, they see neutrality as a lack of conviction, or a trick. He had studied their culture. To the Zenthian hegemony, you're either an ally or an obstacle. The concept of someone who helped your enemy simply because they were suffering was a confusing, suspicious idea. Before Hana could answer, a sharp alarm cut through the ward's quiet hum. It was not a battle station's alert. It was a distress beacon. The main screen flickered to life. It was a visual feed from the Zenthian cruiser Executor. Internal explosions rippled through its corridors. Atmosphere vented in frozen clouds. A catastrophic power failure. Life pod ejections minimal, reported a young technician named Kim Dae from the CUM station, his voice tight. Their main drives are dead. They're losing containment. Survivors are trapped in sections 7 and 9. Every eye on the bridge turned to Hana. Protocol was clear. The Florence Nightingale was permitted to enter a combat zone to render aid, but only after securing approval from both warring parties. Seeking that approval now would take minutes. The Zenthians on that dying ship had seconds. Hana's decision took less than 1. All hands, emergency rescue protocols. Plot and intercept course for the Executor's wreckage. Prepare triage bays 1 through 4. Signal the Rill command that we are performing a medical rescue and request a temporary ceasefire in our vector. She did not ask the Zenthians. They were in no state to answer. Hana. June started, his hand hovering near the tactical panel that showed the nearby Rill battleships. They are patients. June, she said, her voice leaving no room. That is all they are today. The Florence Nightingale turned, its powerful but non-violent engines pushing it toward the dying cruiser. Small, agile medical shuttles launched from its bays, darting toward the torn hull of the Executor. For the next hour, the great white ship was a hive of quiet, desperate activity. Human medics in environment suits, marked with the Red Cross, pulled Zenthian soldiers from twisted metal. They treated plasma burns and stabilized critical injuries on the spot before bringing them back. On the bridge, Hana monitored it all. She saw the Rill battleships hold their position, honoring the ceasefire. She saw the last shuttle dock, carrying a final load of wounded. The executor was dead in space, a tomb for those they could not reach in time. But they had saved 87 lives. Disengage, Hana ordered. Set course for the neutral zone. Broadcast our departure and our continued neutrality to both factions. As the ship began to pull away, a new contact appeared on the edge of the scanner. It was the Zenthian flagship, the Judgment, a monstrous vessel shaped like a jagged spear. It moved to position itself between the Florence Nightingale and the path to safety. A communication request chimed. Hana nodded to Day. The screen resolved into the face of Commander Kale. His features were sharp, his eyes dark pools that held no warmth. Human vessel. The commander's voice was a dry rasp. You entered a tactical zone without hegemony clearance. You interfaced with a hegemony asset in a compromised state. Hannah kept her posture diplomatic. Commander Kale, this is the SS Florence Nightingale, a medical ship operating under the Earth Red Cross Accords. We responded to a universal distress signal. We have retrieved wounded hegemony personnel and are providing them care. Our actions are transparent and lawful. Kale's gaze drifted to someone off-screen, then back. You took hegemony soldiers onto your vessel. You scanned a hegemony warship's interior. Your neutrality is a convenient tool for intelligence gathering. A cold knot formed in Hannah's stomach. We scanned for life signs, Commander. Nothing more. You may send an escort to collect your citizens once they are stabilized. We are departing the conflict zone now. You are not, Kale stated flatly. You will submit to a boarding and inspection party. Your ship and crew will be detained for analysis. June was at Hana's side in an instant. They can't do that. The Accords. Hannah knew. Boarding a Red Cross ship was an unthinkable act. It would shatter the medical neutrality that held the fragile piece of the galaxy together. She looked Commander Kale in the eye. We refuse, Commander. We are a protected vessel under interstellar law. To board us is an act of war. To fire upon us is an atrocity. We are leaving. She made a cutting motion to Day. The communication screen went dark. Full power to engines. Get us out of their weapon range. For a long moment, nothing happened. The Florence Nightingale pushed away from the battlefield, the blue glow of its engines bright against the stars. The Judgment sat silently, a dark sentinel. On the bridge, the crew began to breathe again. Perhaps the message had gotten through. Perhaps the symbol still meant something. Then, on the tactical screen, the Judgment's forward energy cannons began to glow with a vicious purple light. Targeting locks screamed across the control panels. Evasive. June shouted it was too late. The first bolt of plasma struck the Florence Nightingale amidships. The ship, designed to absorb radiation and micrometeoroids, not weapons fire, shuddered like a living thing in pain. Alarms shrieked. Lights flickered. The second bolt tore into the primary medical bay. The third hit the engines. Hana was thrown from her chair. She landed near the main observation port. The stars were spinning. She could hear Kim Day's voice, raw with panic, repeating the distress call. Mayday, Mayday. This is the Earth Red Cross vessel Florence Nightingale. We are under attack. We are a non-combatant. Cease fire. Cease another impact. The voice cut off. The bridge lighting failed, replaced by the hellish red pulse of emergency strobes. Through the cracked observation window, Hana could see the Zenthian flagship, its cannons still coolly firing. She saw the symbol on her own ship's hull, the bright red cross. Now broken and burning. Park June crawled to her side, a deep cut on his forehead. He tried to speak, but the sound was stolen by the roar of tearing metal. Hana's hand found the ship's internal panel. It was dead, but the emergency beacon had one final automatic function. With the last of the ship's power, it would send out a simple, unencoded burst. A final statement of fact, as the air hissed out into the void and the cold of space began to creep in. Lee Hanna looked at the red cross on her own medical sleeve. The ship around her broke apart in silence, in that final second. The beacon activated, across every frequency, on every nearby ship, on listening posts light years away. 5 words echoed, and then were gone. The message was simple. It was clean. It held no emotion, no plea, no demand for explanation. It was just a fact, broadcast on every open channel before the silence took its place. They fired on the Red Cross. It reached the listening post on Mars first. A young technician named Lee June stared at the words on her screen. The raw signal data beside it, confirming the origin, the transponder of the SS Florence Nightingale. Then the transponder signal vanished. She understood. Her hands, usually so steady, began to shake as she forwarded the message with the highest priority flag Earth's network had ever seen. The message found Kim Min-seok in his office in Geneva. He was reviewing trade agreements, a delicate dance of words meant to keep Earth safe and supplied. The news window opened on his wall screen, silent and stark. He read the 5 words. He read the ship's name below them. His breath left his body in a slow, quiet sigh. Lee Hanna was his niece. His clever, kind, stubborn niece who had wanted to heal the galaxy. He saw her smiling face from her graduation, then pushed the image away. There was no time for that now. The diplomat took over from the uncle. He joined the emergency council. The room was a storm of voices, angry, fearful, demanding. Military leaders wanted immediate retaliation. Politicians from the Pan-Asian bloc urged caution, a stronger diplomatic protest. The Euro-African representative demanded the immediate recall of all human vessels. The noise was immense. Then Earth's unified president, an old woman with eyes like granite, spoke. Her voice cut through the chaos. Quiet. The room fell silent. She looked at Kim Min-seok. Senior Diplomat Kim, your assessment. What is the Zenthian goal? Min-seok straightened his jacket. Intimidation, Madam President. They view neutrality as either cowardice or deceit. By destroying a symbol everyone else respects, they prove their strength. They believe they have shown us the cost of not picking their side. They expect either our submission or a loud, predictable war we cannot win at this distance. A general slammed a fist on the table. Then we show them war. We launch the fleet from the belt stations. And die gloriously? Min-seok asked, his voice still calm. Their military technology is superior. Our bravery would be a brief spectacle before our defeat. That is what they are prepared for. That is what the entire galaxy expects us to do. Scream and charge. The president nodded slowly. What do they not expect? Min-seok met her gaze. Silence. The decision was made. It was not a popular one, but it was unanimous. The orders went out. Within hours, every human ship in transit received a priority command. They were not to head toward Zenthian space. They were to proceed to the nearest hidden rally point, coordinates embedded in the message. Every civilian freighter, every exploration vessel, every diplomatic shuttle changed course and vanished from the commercial lanes. Publicly, the government made only one statement. The president appeared on screens across the planet. Her face was solemn, her words precise. The Red Cross was a symbol of mercy. That symbol has been extinguished by the Zenthian hegemony. Earth withdraws from all interstellar accords and treaties, effective immediately. All galactic traffic to and from the Sol system is suspended until further notice. And then Earth went quiet. Official communication channels to other species fell dark. The bustling space around Jupiter's ports emptied. The lunar trading hubs closed. It was not a blockade. It was a disappearance, Across the galaxy, reactions varied. The Rill Collective sent formal condolences and private messages urging restraint, fearing a wider war. Other neutral species expressed horror at the atrocity, but watched nervously, waiting for the human explosion. On the Zenthian flagship Judgment, Commander Kale reviewed the reports. His tactical officers were pleased. The human network has collapsed. They are hiding in their home system. Their merchant ships flee. It is the reaction of a frightened animal, one said. Kale watched the replay of the Florence Nightingale breaking apart. He felt no particular satisfaction, only a sense of correct order. A potential variable had been removed. The humans had been shown their place. Their silence confirmed it. They were irrelevant. He ordered a celebration broadcast throughout the hegemony fleet, proclaiming their dominance and the weakness of those who clung to useless ideals. Far from the celebrations, in the dark of space near the Zenthian home system, a small needle-like ship floated. It was the SS Silent Witness, a human reconnaissance vessel designed to be invisible. Its hull absorbed scans. Its engines left no detectable wake. On its bridge, Captain Choi Yuna watched the Zenthian victory broadcasts with a cold, still face. She had heard the final message from the Florence Nightingale. She had seen the sensor logs of the attack, pulled from a hidden probe. She watched now as Zenthian warships, their weapons powered down, drifted in lazy formations. She saw the lights of their lunar colony, Zenth Prime, glittering like a careless jewel. They were not preparing for a counterattack. They were not fortifying their defenses. They were laughing. Her communications officer, a young man named Park Hyen, looked up from his console. Captain, new orders from Earth Command. Priority Omega. Yuna opened the encrypted file. It contained no call to arms. It contained no battle plan. It was a simple, continuing mission directive. Observe and report. Track all military traffic. Map defensive grid status. Note all patterns of life on Zenth Prime. Maintain absolute stealth. She understood. Earth was not preparing a fleet. They were preparing an answer. Her job was to give them the information to make that answer perfect. You heard the order, Yuna said to her crew, her voice soft but clear in the quiet bridge. They think we are hiding. They think we are broken. Let them think it. Watch everything. Record everything. Even the celebrations. Back on Earth, Kim Min-seok walked through a quiet garden. The public was confused. Some were angry, calling the government cowards. A memorial for the Florence Nightingale crew grew in Seoul. Thousands of flowers and lights placed under a hologram of the Red Cross. The silence from their leaders was deafening. Min SEOK, single quotes S private line, buzzed. It was a secure audio channel. A voice he recognized, General Park, head of strategic response, spoke without greeting. The site is ready. The tool is being built. We will need your skills soon, diplomat. Not to ask for peace, but to explain the silence that follows. The call ended. Min-seok looked up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, his niece was gone. Somewhere up there, Captain Yuna was watching. And somewhere, something was being built. He thought of Commander Kale's smug face on the intercepted broadcasts. He thought of the Zenthian moon, glowing with ignorant safety. He finally allowed himself to think of Hana as a little girl, holding a bandage to an injured bird. Mercy was a choice. It was a gift. And when you willfully smashed that gift, you are left with what remained. You were left with the cold, hard facts of physics, and Earth was not hiding. The entire human species was holding its breath. And Kim Min-seok knew, with a chill that had nothing to do with the night air, that when humanity finally chose to exhale, it would not be a sigh. It would be a wind that swept entire worlds silent. The silence from Earth was complete. To the rest of the galaxy, it seemed like a failure of nerve. To the people working in the cold dark beyond Pluto, it was the quiet of absolute focus. This place had no name on any public chart. It was simply Site C. It hung in the void, a cluster of geometric structures clinging to a captured asteroid. There were no bright lights, no bustling docks. It was a place of shadows and controlled movement. Here, the decision made in the quiet council chambers on Earth was becoming solid reality. General Park stood on an observation platform, looking down into the main construction bay. He was not a tall man, but he stood with a stillness that seemed to anchor the room. His face showed the weight of command, but his eyes were clear. He was not here to manage anger. He was here to oversee a surgical operation. Below him, in the bay, the tool was being assembled. It did not look like a weapon. It looked like a piece of abstract art or a deep space communications array. It was a series of rings, made of a material so black it seemed to drink the light from the work lamps around it. At its heart was a sphere of polished silver, covered in complex patterns. The object was massive, the size of a small moon itself. It had no engines that anyone could see, no weapon ports. It was simply a shape of darkness and quiet. A door hissed open behind him. Li Jin entered, her steps quick and light. She was the lead scientist for quantum kinetics. Where General Park was stillness, she was contained energy. She held a data pad glowing with equations. "General," she said, her voice respectful but direct. "Dr. Li," he acknowledged, not turning from the view. "Is it ready?" The primary resonator matrix passed final calibration 12 hours ago. The secondary harmonics are locked. The tool is ready. "Tell me again what it does," the general said. He knew already. He had read every report, but he needed to hear it in simple terms, to remember the reality of the thing they had built. Li Jin stepped to the window beside him. She looked at the dark rings with a scientist's pride and a human's deep unease. "It is a gravitic resonator, or more accurately, a set of them. Think of it as a tuning fork, but for reality." She gestured with her hands. "Everything has a natural frequency, a specific vibration. A moon, a building, a person. This device finds that frequency for any atomic lattice. We target crystalline structures, metal alloys, the bonds in reinforced plasteel. And then it does not push against it. It does not hit it. It simply sings the exact opposite frequency." General Park watched the silent object. "Cancellation. Perfect, total cancellation," Li Jin confirmed. "It broadcasts a focused field that convinces the atomic bonds in the target zone that they do not exist. The energy holding matter together is negated. The structure simply forgets how to be solid. And the effect? From a macro view, it turns a mountain into sand, a city into dust, a moon into a cloud of fine inert particles. There is no explosion, no fire, no release of heat or energy that can be weaponized. There is only dissolution. It is the most quiet form of destruction imaginable." "And the people on it?" General Park asked, his voice flat. Li Jin's face tightened. "They are part of the structure. They would experience a moment of profound vibration, then silence. It would be quick." She looked down at her data pad. "We did not design this, General. The theory was for deep core mining, for disassembling asteroids safely. We thought of it as a tool for building. Tools are defined by their use," the general said. "Can the Zenthians detect it? Block it?" "No," she said, confidence returning to her voice. "The field is a subtle manipulation of local gravity waves. Their sensors look for energy spikes, plasma, radiation, kinetic impacts. They will see nothing. By the time the harmonic cascade begins, it will be too late to stop. The effect propagates at the speed of sound through the target material. For a moon the size of Zenth Prime, the process would take approximately 53 minutes from initiation to total structural failure. 53 minutes. General Park let the number sit in the quiet room. And our delivery system? The Event Horizon is waiting in Bay 3. It is a stealth transport, the best we have ever built. Pilot Kim Tae-yun is already running simulations. He will place the resonator nodes at precise points around Zenth Prime. Once activated, they work in concert. The Event Horizon will be far away before anyone knows anything is wrong. General Park finally turned from the window. His eyes met Li Jin's. "This is not revenge, Doctor. Do you understand that?" She held his gaze. "Then what is it?" "It is a lesson," he said. "They fired on a symbol of our mercy. They believed it made them strong. We will show them the strength we held back. We will show them the destruction we chose not to use every day we flew that red cross. We are not killing a moon to destroy the Zenthians. We are silencing a moon to teach the galaxy, so that the next time someone sees a red cross, they will not see weakness. They will remember the silence that follows when it is gone." Li Jin nodded slowly. The science was clear in her mind. The morality was a heavier, more complicated thing. But she had seen the footage from the Florence Nightingale. She had heard the final message. She thought of the arrogance of Commander Kale, celebrating his atrocity. "The tool is ready," she repeated, her voice firm. "Good," said General Park. "Prepare the briefing for Pilot Tae-yun. We move on the next optimal transit window. The Zenthians are still celebrating. Let them enjoy their party. The quiet will come soon enough." He looked back at the dark, silent rings in the construction bay. It looked like a hole cut out of space. Soon, it would fly to the heart of the hegemony. Soon, it would sing a silent song that would make a moon forget its name. There were no flags on Site C, no patriotic speeches. Only engineers checking systems, soldiers standing guard over something they barely understood, and a terrible, quiet purpose. The weapon of mercy's end was complete. It was time to deliver the lesson. The space around the Zenthian homeworld was busy and bright. Ships moved like glowing insects between the great blue-green planet and its moon, Zenth Prime. The moon itself was a jewel, covered in towering crystalline cities that shimmered with internal light. Music and victory broadcasts still echoed through the communication channels. The destruction of the human hospital ship was a fading news story, a confirmed lesson in strength. No retaliation had come. The humans, it seemed, knew their place. Commander Kale stood on the bridge of the Judgment, now docked at the main orbital spire above Zenth Prime. He looked down at the moon, a symbol of hegemony, power, and culture. It was the heart of their military industry, the home of their greatest minds, a testament to their order. He felt a dull satisfaction. The universe was predictable. Show power and others yield. He did not see the shadow that passed through the outer system. It was a small, dark ship, its shape blurred by layers of stealth material that drank sensor energy. This was the Event Horizon. Inside its cockpit, Pilot Kim Tae-yun breathed slowly and evenly. His hands rested lightly on the controls. His screens showed the moon, not as a beautiful jewel, but as a technical diagram, a series of gravitational stress points and structural harmonics. Target markers glowed softly on his display, that his mission briefing had been clear. He was not a soldier. He was a deliverman. His cargo was not a bomb. It was a set of 6 compact, dark devices currently held in the ship's launch tubes. His orders were simple. Insert them into the precise Lagrangian points around Zenth Prime. Activate the synchronization sequence and leave. Do not engage. Do not be seen. Do not witness the effect. Silent witness confirms no change in defensive posture. a quiet voice said in his ear. It was Captain Choi Yuna, from her hiding place far away. She was his eyes, watching the Zenthian fleet patterns. The celebration cycle continues? You are clear for insertion, Kim. Acknowledged, Taeyeon whispered back. He pushed a control. The event horizon slid forward, riding the gravitational currents like a leaf on a dark stream. One by one, he arrived at the calculated points in space. Stable pockets of gravity where objects could stay fixed relative to the moon. At each point, a door on his ship opened silently. A dark, ring-shaped object, smaller than his ship but heavy with purpose, was gently pushed out by magnetic rails. It drifted into position and then activated tiny station-keeping thrusters to hold its place. It powered up, its surface remaining non-reflective, its energy signature so minimal it was lost in the background noise of the solar wind. Taeyeon did not think about what the devices would do. He thought about the flight path, the fuel mixtures, the sensor shadows. He thought about his cousin, who had been a nurse on a relief mission to a flood zone years ago. He thought about the symbol on her hat. He focused on the work. 6 deliveries. 6 silent sentinels now hung around the moon, invisible to the eye and to Zenthian science. A perfect geometric cage. Package delivery complete, Taeyeon reported, his voice flat. Initiating synchronization link. Setting activation timer as per command authority. He entered the final code. A signal, faint and impossible to trace, linked the 6 devices. They hummed to a shared life, waiting for the final command. Withdraw, Kim, Yuna's voice came. Get to the minimum safe distance. The event horizon turned and melted back into the deeper dark, leaving the moon and its sleeping guardians behind. On Earth, in a room buried deep under a mountain, General Park stood with Lee Jin and Kim Min-seok. A simple countdown glowed on a screen. It reached 0. Execute Operation Silent Resolve, General Park said. Lee Jin pressed a physical key. A signal, carried by a network of hidden quantum relays, was sent. It traveled across light years in an instant. Around Zenth Prime, the 6 resonators received their final instruction. They began to sing, but their song was not made of sound. It was a precise, terrible vibration pushed into the fabric of local spacetime, a focused whisper to gravity itself. On the moon's surface, in a grand crystal plaza, a celebration was underway. Zenthians in fine robes moved to rhythmic music. Then, a strange feeling passed through the crowd. A vibration, deep in the bones. The music from the speakers wavered, then died. Not in a crackle of static, but as if the sound was being pulled away. People looked around, confused. The air itself felt thick, heavy, silent. Commander Kale, in his spire, felt a low hum through the deck. An alert chimed on a subordinate's console. Minor seismic activity, the officer reported. Probably a deep moonquake. It is within normal parameters. But it was not normal. In the lower levels of the spire, a structural support column, made of a super-hardened crystal alloy, began to shimmer. It did not crack. It simply softened. The molecules holding hands across its structure were told to let go. The column sighed into a pile of gray, fine sand. The floor above it sagged. The effect spread. It was not an explosion. It was an unraveling. A great crystalline tower, a famous landmark, began to blur at its edges. It lost its sharp, beautiful lines. It slumped downward, collapsing inward on itself with a whisper of flowing particles. There was no roar of falling stone. Just the hiss of dust. Panic began, but it was a quiet panic. Vehicles lost power as their molecular integrity failed. Communications died as towers dissolved. Lights winked out across continents. The beautiful glowing moon began to darken, sector by sector, in a wave of silent disintegration. Kale stared at the main viewer, now showing chaos from the surface. He saw a city, not burning, but melting into a slow-moving dune of dust. He barked orders. Scan for enemy ships. Look for weapons fire. Energy signatures. Nothing, Commander. The sensor officer cried, true fear in his voice. There are no ships. No impacts. No energy readings. The moon is just falling apart. From the homeworld, billions watched in horror as the glittering moon began to grow a blotchy, gray skin. The dissolution accelerated. The resonator's song reached the moon's core, finding the frequencies of the rocks and metals there. The entire body began to lose cohesion. For 53 minutes, the Zenthian hegemony watched its heart die in utter silence. There were no heroics, no last stands, no enemy to fight. There was only the quiet, unstoppable process of something ceasing to exist. When it was over, Zenth Prime was gone. In its place was a vast, diffuse ring of fine dust, slowly spreading in the sunlight, silent and serene. Where billions had lived and worked and celebrated, there was only a blank space in the sky. On the bridge of the judgment, the only sound was the frantic beeping of systems and the ragged breath of the crew. Commander Kale stood frozen, his victory, his certainty, his understanding of the universe, all turned to dust before his eyes. Then, a single communication came through. It was on an old, simple channel. It was not from a ship. It was a replay, clean and clear. A human voice, filled with static and finality, said 5 words. They fired on the Red Cross. And then silence returned. A deeper silence than anyone had ever known. The lesson had been delivered, not with a scream, but with a whisper that erased a moon. The silence after the moon's end was absolute. It was not the quiet of space, which is always full of faint radiation and distant stellar winds. This was a deeper silence, a psychological void that had swallowed the Zenthian hegemony and echoed through every listening post in the galaxy. On the homeworld, the skies were wrong. Where Zenth Prime had glowed, a constant companion and a symbol of power, there was now a dark, empty space. And in that space, a faint, spreading smear of dust caught the sunlight, a grim reminder painted across the stars. Panic, grief, and confusion were 2 small words for what happened below. It was a species-wide shock, a fundamental crack in their understanding of reality. There were no declarations of war from Earth. No fleets appeared. No demands were transmitted. Only that one repeated message from a dead ship. They fired on the Red Cross. It was a statement of cause. The silent moon was the effect. Everyone understood the connection. No explanation was needed. Weeks passed. The Zenthian military, in disarray, could not even find a target for its rage. Their scans showed nothing. Their theories fell apart. It was as if the laws of physics themselves had turned against them. The Rill Collective and every other neutral species watched in terrified awe. They had expected a human war, loud and violent and tragic. They had not expected this. This was not warfare. It was a statement. On Earth, the quiet continued, but its quality had changed. The memorials for the Florence Nightingale crew still stood, but now people looked at them with a different understanding. They saw the Red Cross and felt a profound, somber pride. Mercy had been a choice. Now, the galaxy knew the price of refusing that choice. Kim Min-seok was summoned to a secure shuttle. He was taken not to a government building, but to a simple, isolated station in high Earth orbit. The room he entered had one large window looking out at the stars. General Park and Dr. Lee Jin were already there, waiting. "The channel is open," General Park said, without greeting. "Minimal bandwidth. Audio only. To the Zenthian High Council. You will speak." Min-seok nodded. He was no longer the diplomat trying to placate. He was the voice of a fact that had already happened. A small light on the console turned from red to green. Zenthian hegemony. Kim Min-seok began, his voice calm, clear, and empty of negotiation. This is Senior Diplomat Kim Min-seok of Earth's unified government. We are speaking today to ensure there is no misunderstanding. He paused, letting the silence itself carry weight. You fired on the Red Cross of Earth. You destroyed the SS Florence Nightingale and killed all aboard. You did this believing our mercy was weakness. You celebrated this act. Another pause. On the other end, in a shattered council chamber on the Zenthian homeworld, the leaders listened, dreading every word. Your moon, Zenth Prime, is gone. It was removed not by weapons of war, but by tools of applied physics. There was no warning shot. There will be no negotiation regarding this action. It is complete. Min-seok's tone became even colder, precise as a scalpel. This was our restraint. The Red Cross represented our choice not to use such tools. You chose to remove that option. You mistook our morality for incapability. You were wrong. He could almost feel the terrified silence from the other side of the light years. Here are the new facts. Min-seok continued. Any further aggression against human interests, any approach to human space without explicit permission, any threat made against our species will be met with a proportional and final response. We will not send soldiers. We will not fight your fleets. We will simply select another of your symbols, another foundation of your civilization, and we will silence it. We recommend you do not make us define what comes next. He took a final breath. The galaxy has seen our mercy. It has now seen the strength we held in check. The choice of which you see again is yours. This communication is ended. The light turned red. The connection died. General Park let out a long, slow breath. Li Jin looked pale but resolved. Min-seok felt hollow. There was no triumph in this. Only a terrible, necessary clarity. Will they listen? Li Jin asked quietly. They have no choice, General Park said. They cannot fight a ghost that turns moons to dust. Their allies will abandon them, fearing we might look at their worlds next. They are broken. On the Zenthian homeworld, in a city now permanently shadowed by the loss in its sky, a single survivor sat on a broken ledge. He was a teacher, not a soldier. He had taught young Zenthians about the glory of the hegemony. Now he looked up at the eerie, dusty ring that was his moon's grave. He thought of the human ship he had seen on the news. The big white ship with the red cross. He had believed his commander's words, that its destruction was a show of necessary strength. Now he understood. That red cross was not a flag of surrender. It was a seal on a container. Inside that container was the terrible, silent force that had unmade a world. The human diplomat's words echoed in his mind. You mistook our morality for incapability. The teacher looked at the dust in the sky, a monument to that mistake. He knew, with a certainty that would pass into his people's myths and nightmares for generations, what had happened. Humanity had not waged war. They had simply stopped being merciful. And in that cessation, they had revealed a power so vast and quiet it could erase a moon without a sound. The galaxy would realign. New treaties would be written, with Earth's name at the top. The Red Cross would fly again on human ships, and no one, ever again, would dare to even look at it with crosshairs. It would be the most respected, the most feared symbol in the stars, not because of the medicine behind it, but because of the silent, dusty ring that now hung around Zenth, proving what happened when you made the healers put their medicines away and pick up the tools they used for mining asteroids. The lesson was learned, it was very, very quiet.